Chapter 1. The second half of her execution. My name is Kira. In my first life, I was an elite special forces captain on Earth. In my second, I woke as the weakest kind of goblin in a world where my new race was treated as disposable. Battlefield salvage helped me survive. I protected 2 goblin children, rescued Aelthira, a forsaken elf queen, and helped save Blackroot. Saving a settlement was easier than keeping it alive. 3 goblin children were vomiting beside the well. One had already collapsed. I crouched beside him and checked his pulse. Weak but steady. A window appeared before my eyes. Waterborne infection. Primary source, contaminated well. Spread risk rising? I dismissed it and looked at the water. It looked clean. That meant nothing. Nessa, I called. The herbalist hurried over, her arms full of cloth and crushed leaves. Move the sick away from the well. No one drinks from here until I say so. She nodded at once. The others did not. Grusk stepped forward. He was one of Blackroot's oldest goblins, with a torn ear and pale scars across his throat. We should move, he said. When sickness comes, the tribe moves. If we leave without finding the cause, we take the sickness with us. A camp can run. A village waits for the fire. Then we make it hard to burn. I ordered the sick isolated, the food covered, and every drop of drinking water boiled. The waste pit would be moved downhill. A few goblins hesitated until I raised my voice. Then the clearing came alive. Pika ran toward me carrying a shovel taller than he was. I can dig. You can bring clean stones to the well. His face fell. That is not important. It becomes important when people die without them. He straightened immediately. I will find the best stones in Blackroot. He ran off as though I had assigned him to save the settlement. Bibi followed, already separating clean tools from muddy ones. I knelt beside the well and drew drainage lines in the dirt. A bowl appeared in front of my face. Eat, Aelthira said. I'm working. So is everyone else. I'll eat later. You ordered Blackroot to eat at fixed times. I am not. Everyone. You are the reason everyone believes rules are optional. She took the charcoal from my hand and replaced it with the bowl. I gave in. Across the clearing, Pika leaned toward Bibi. Is this what queens do? Bibi glanced at him. What? Make Kira obey. I nearly choked. Aelthira looked over calmly. Which part? All of it, Pika said. Work, I told him. He ran. Aelthira knelt beside my map and pressed her fingers to the soil. Faint silver light spread beneath the ground, gathering near the stagnant edge of the stream. Something died here long ago, she said. The rain disturbed the remains. Corrupted mana. She nodded. Mana pools where water goes still. I studied the current she had revealed. Then we redirect the trench. Together we curved the runoff away from the corrupted patch. Dark soil rushed downhill. Pika returned with an armful of stones. You fixed it. We stopped it getting worse. I knew that. You just said we fixed it. I was testing you. Aelthira turned away, but I saw her smile. A broken ward anchor stood beside the well. I placed my hand against it. Battlefield. Salvage activated. Spiritwood core intact. Moon silver thread damaged. Fractured mana crystal may be stabilized. I removed the damaged thread. Aelthira was staring at me. What? What did you see? The system showed me what could still be used. Her expression changed. What is a system? The messages. The choices. Evolution. She went still. You see them too, I said. Aelthira slowly shook her head. Kira, mana does not speak in sentences. A cold unease moved through me. Then how do people know when they evolve? Instinct, dreams, pressure within the soul. Her gaze lowered to my chest. When your ability activated, something changed around you. You could see it? Not the words, only a pattern, as though an unseen hand were writing across your soul. I did not like that answer. A horn sounded from the outer path. Every goblin in the clearing froze. Grusk drew his blade. I rose and moved between the children and the unfinished gate. A mounted human waited outside beneath a white council flag. He dismounted reluctantly and produced a sealed document. Blackroot settlement, he announced. You are summoned before the Thorn Council. Aelthira stepped beside me as he read the accusations. Illegal occupation of disputed territory. Sheltering fugitives and raiders. Leadership by an unregistered evolved monster. Maintenance of an unlawful armed force. That last part was me. You have 12 days to appear, he said. Failure to attend will result in Blackroot being classified as an uncontrolled monster nest. And what does that allow? I asked. His eyes moved toward Pika and Bibi. Recognized powers may clear the territory, claim the land, and seize anything considered salvage. Salvage. The same word my ability used for broken weapons and dead things. Aelthira accepted the document. We need 2 recognized factions to support Blackroot's claim. And if they do not? She looked across the unfinished homes and the goblins who had finally stopped running. Then everyone who comes to kill us will believe the law is on their side. She looked down at the seal and went pale. Who is it? I asked. Warden Cassian Vylor. The name meant nothing to me. It meant everything to her. He controlled the frontier road during the coup, she said. My loyalists tried to reach me through his territory. None arrived. Was he part of the betrayal? I do not know. Aelthira looked toward the children gathered beside the well. But this is not a hearing. Then what is it? Her fingers tightened around the summons, the second half of my execution. Chapter 2. Your soul does not fit. Aelthira spread a rough map across the table the next morning. The thorn marches were a knot of orders and roads claimed by rulers who had never walked them. Blackroot. Needs the support of 2 recognized factions, Aelthira said, and goblins are not recognized. Not as a people. I stared at the map. A human outlaw is still considered a person, yes, but a goblin accused of the same crime can be killed without trial, yes. The answer came too easily. On Earth, we had cleaner words for ugly decisions, threats, targets, necessary losses. Once the label was accepted, fewer people asked who had been buried beneath it. Did Moonshade follow these laws? Aelthira was silent. Not always, she said, but often enough. I respected her more for that than I would have respected an excuse. She folded the map. Now we correct your second weakness. I was unaware we had finished discussing the first. We have not. You are simply easier to teach when irritated. Outside, a spiritwood marker stood in the clearing. You rely too heavily on your system, Aelthira said. At the council, reacting to knowledge no one else can see may expose you. So I need to sense mana naturally. You need to stop waiting for written permission to notice the world. She stepped behind me. One hand settled between my shoulders. The other guided my wrist toward the marker. Breathe. I am breathing. Like a soldier expecting an ambush. That has kept me alive. Her breath brushed my ear, my concentration disappeared. Your heartbeat changed. She said, Mana is not usually embarrassed. I looked back at her. She appeared perfectly calm. That made one of us. Focus on teaching. I am. I tried to sense the mana. My mind kept turning it into heat. Electricity, pressure, anything measurable. Nothing, answered Aelthira. Release my wrist. Your soul does not fit this body. My hand moved toward my blade before I could stop. She saw she did not step back. How long have you known? Since the battlefield. I stared at her. Your body is young, she said, but your soul is not. It carries habits formed over many years, and memories shaped beneath unfamiliar stars. And you never asked. You were wounded, hunted, and protecting 2 children. Your origin seemed less important than your choices. I had expected fear from anyone who learned the truth. Aelthira had simply watched what I did with it. I died in another world, I said. Earth. She waited. I remember my training. My old life, my death. Then I woke as a goblin. You remember dying? Yes. Her expression softened. You believe me? I can see the scars your first life left upon your soul, she said. Belief is not required, Aelthira placed her hand over mine. Whatever brought you here did not decide who you became afterward. That was more dangerous than any question. She could have asked, what about the system? Native beings experience evolution through instinct, dreams, and pressure within the soul. No one sees written messages. Then why do I? Your soul may need this world translated into something your mind understands. That almost sounds reasonable. Almost. Her gaze lowered to my chest. There is also a fracture. I went still. A thin silver line through your soul. It brightens when the system acts. Did reincarnation cause it? Natural rebirth changes a soul. It should not divide one. What does that mean? I do not know. I disliked how often those words followed any explanation involving me. A metallic snap interrupted us. Bibi sat beside the old grain mill, surrounded by pieces from its broken mechanism. She turned a bent clasp, fitted it into another slot and pushed the wheel into place. The mechanism settled. I crouched beside her. "Did something tell you how to do that?" Bibi frowned. No message." She looked at me as though I had asked whether the mill had spoken. "It felt wrong before," she said. "Now it fits." Aelthira examined the repair. "She may be approaching a crafting evolution." Bibi's eyes widened. "Will I become bigger?" "Not necessarily." "Good." She glanced toward Pika, who was carrying 3 practice spears at once. Before I could answer, a scout ran into the clearing. 3 strangers on the eastern path, wounded. We found them near the gate. 2 were beastkin labourers. The 3rd was a young fox woman with dried blood around an iron collar wound. "My name is Tavi Ash-Ir," she said. "I kept records for Warden Valor. By choice?" Her fingers touched the wound around her neck. "No." Nessa helped her sit. Tavi pulled folded pages from inside her clothing. The writing listed livestock, tools, timber and monster materials. The numbers did not match. Too much food for animals. Too little weight for metal. Repeated entries marked by age and condition. "They are people," Tavi said. "He records captives as cargo." Her eyes moved around Blackroot. "You could return me to him. He may recognize your settlement if you do." "No. You could exchange me for peace." "Then it would not be peace," I said. "It would only be purchasing our—" Aelthira's hand settled against my shoulder. There was pride in her eyes. Tavi looked down at the pages. "He already knows I escaped." She pulled out one final scrap. "Before I left, I saw orders being prepared for the Thorn Council. Most of the writing used shipment codes. One line did not. Required loss. One council-recognized party. Liability assignment." "Blackroot, which delegate?" I asked. The name was blank. Aelthira understood first. "He does not care who dies." Tavi shook her head. "He only needs the others to believe you killed one of them." The council had not even begun. Valor had already chosen our crime. All he still needed was a body. Chapter 3. The poison he chose by the 3rd day. Blackroot looked less like a camp and more like a place expecting to survive. That worried Grusk. He stood beside the new storage shelter, watching goblins mark food crates with charcoal. "Symbols. You are teaching them to stay," he said. "I am teaching them not to starve." Same thing, I handed him a rough map of Blackroot. Food caches had been divided. 2 evacuation routes crossed the eastern forest. Horn signals marked fire, sickness, attack, and retreat. "If the council turns against us, Valor may attack while we are gone," I said. "You will command the settlement." Grusk stared at me. "You expect me to trust walls? I expect you to trust the goblins behind them." His torn ear twitched. "And if you do not return?" "Then the plan still works." That unsettled him. I was trying to build something that could survive without me. Pika arrived carrying a bundle of coloured cords. I remembered all the signals. I pointed to the cords. Red. Fire. Black. "Enemy inside Blackroot. White?" He hesitated. Bibi answered from behind him. "Evacuate the children." "I knew that," Pika said. "You were thinking," she replied. Bibi handed me a repaired signal board. "Its wooden pegs now moved without sticking. You changed it. It kept catching. Did it feel wrong again?" She nodded. Pika leaned over the board. "Can she evolve into something useful?" Bibi kicked his ankle. He yelped. "She is already useful," I said. Bibi looked pleased. Pika looked offended. "So am I. You are holding the cords upside down." He looked down. Aelthira passed with Nessa beside her, both carrying baskets of herbs. Their cooperation was new and not yet comfortable. Nessa placed pale leaves on the work table. "These reduce fever." Aelthira added a silver-veined root, "and this stops the medicine from pulling corrupted mana into the blood." Nessa's mouth tightened. "Goblins used moonleaf before elves decided the forest belonged to them." The air changed. Aelthira did not defend herself, I know. "Do you?" "My people burned settlements beneath royal banners," Aelthira said. "Some of those banners belonged to my court." Nessa watched her. "I cannot undo what was done beneath elven colours. I can decide what is done beneath mine." For a long moment, neither moved. Then Nessa pushed the basket closer. Show me how much root. It was not forgiveness. It was a beginning. By evening, the roots were marked, the medicine counted, and Tavi's pages copied twice. I should have been satisfied. Instead, I calculated how quickly soldiers could reach us. A wooden cup appeared beside my hand. Dark liquid steamed inside it. I smelled it and became suspicious. What is this? Coffee, Aelthira said. During one of our lessons, I had described it as a bitter drink that kept soldiers functional through long nights. You remembered. You called it essential to military survival. It was. I used roasted bitter root. I took a cautious drink. It tasted like burnt bark soaked in regret. Aelthira studied my face. Well, it is close. That was dishonest. It is brown and hot. So is swamp water after lightning. Pika grabbed the second cup before anyone could stop him. His entire face folded inward. Spat into the fire while Bibi laughed. Aelthira took my cup and drank. Her expression barely changed. Your world's greatest achievement was not this. You made it. That was an act of cultural respect. Pika wiped his tongue with his sleeve. Earth is terrible. Later, Aelthira found me beyond the outer fires. The sky above Erendor was crowded with unfamiliar stars. She sat beside me. What did your world look like? Louder. That is not an appearance. It was part of the appearance. I told her about cities lit through the night, hospitals without healing magic, and machines that crossed oceans. Then I told her about satellites. You placed machines beyond the sky? A few. With mana? No. She turned toward me. None. None anyone could prove. Aelthira looked up at the stars. A world with magic is restrained by the limits of magic. A world without it would be forced to possess imagination without limits. That is generous. It was not entirely praise. I smiled. What do you miss most? She asked. Knowing what things mean, I said. Food, roads, the sky. I looked down at my green hands, waking without needing to remember which body I am in. Aelthira's expression softened. My world still exists, she said. Yet I understand. Her court remained. Her forests remained. Her people remained. She simply no longer belonged among them. You could return, I said. So could you if a path opened. I looked at her. Would you? She did not answer immediately. Her hand settled beside mine on the grass. Perhaps missing a home and belonging to it are not the same thing. Our fingers almost touched. A horn sounded from the eastern path. We were standing. Before the second call, Grusk met us at the gate. A human scout lay dead at his feet. We caught him watching the eastern trail, Grusk said. He bit something hidden inside his tooth before we could question him. Valor's mark was burned into the leather. Beneath the man's coat, a map of Blackroot had been hidden inside his boot. The food stores were marked. So were the new evacuation routes. He watched us closely, Grusk said. The scout's lips were stained grey. I found a broken capsule between his teeth and touched the residue. A window appeared. Widow's Mercy. Primary effect: respiratory paralysis. Secondary property: residue resembles goblin nightshade. Aelthira read my expression. What is it? A human poison designed to leave goblin evidence. I looked toward the road leading to the Thorn Council. Tavi had warned us that Vylor intended to kill a delegate and blame Blackroot now. One of his scouts carried a poison that could do exactly that. He may have chosen the murder weapon, I said. Somewhere inside the council fortress, someone was already carrying the poison. You will come with us, I said. The council needs to hear from someone who remembers what goblins were before Blackroot. Grusk stared at me. Then who commands here? I looked toward Nessa, who was sorting medicine beside the signal board. She does. Nessa raised her head. The routes are marked. The stores are divided. If the warning horn sounds, you move the children first and defend only what can be defended. She nodded once. Grusk looked unconvinced. You trust her? I trust the plan. She knows it.
This is an original story from Keiko Novel.
Chapter 4. She has been claimed. The Thorn Council met inside a fortress older than every kingdom represented there. Its walls had been raised when humans, elves, dwarves, and beastkin still trusted one another enough to build together. The trust had not survived. The walls had. I counted 3 gates, 2 firing positions, 1 damaged tower, and 6 blind spots before we crossed the courtyard, Aelthira noticed. You have been here less than a minute, That is long enough to find 6 ways this place could fail. Only 6? I am still being polite. Ancient wards limited the armed followers each faction could bring inside. They could not stop a hidden blade or a bought servant. Before we entered the hall, Aelthira stopped beneath a stone arch and adjusted my armour. The plates had been salvaged from elven and human equipment, then joined with dark leather and goblin stitching. Bibi's polished clasp held the collar together. "You are pulling too tightly," I said. "You are standing incorrectly." "I know how to stand." "As a soldier?" "Perhaps." Her fingers brushed the side of my neck. "You are not attending as a survivor. You are attending as Blackroot's leader," her hand lingered. Aelthira stepped back. "Try not to threaten anyone before the introductions are complete. No promises." 3. Delegations waited inside. A broad beastkin man struck one fist against his chest. "I am Rudrak Stonehorn, son of Garin, grandson of the Red Mane, victor of the Seven-Claw trial and strongest spear of the Eastern Plains." The dwarf beside him barely looked up. Mara Flintvine, 3rd Ledger Authority of the Stonevine Compact, the final representative, wore the pale robes of the Ascendant Flame, Sister Elowen Vey, speaker for the recognised villages of the Western Frontier. Then everyone looked at me. I had prepared for accusations. I had not prepared a lineage. Aelthira stepped forward, Kira of Blackroot, born beneath distant stars and formerly a captain of a nation called America. The all went quiet. I leaned toward her. "You could have left out the stars. You requested an impressive introduction," Rudrak studied me. "America is your clan. Something like that? Powerful?" "Large, loud, frequently divided against itself." Mara raised her pen. "And what does House America trade?" I considered the question. "Mostly debt." Aelthira looked away to hide her smile. The council steward granted Tavi temporary protection as a witness. Until the hearing ended, Valor could not legally remove her from the fortress. Legally was doing a great deal of work in that sentence. Rudrak wanted safe passage through Blackroot's forest. Mara wanted access to a collapsed northern tunnel. Elowen wanted protection for human villages. I placed our inventories and patrol plans on the table. Blackroot can mark borders, record cargo, and establish shared patrols, I said. Attacks will be investigated before blame is assigned. Mara examined the figures. "You keep exact records?" "We keep food because we keep records." She checked the totals twice. "They match. They should." Rudrak leaned forward. "And when raiders attack beyond your sight?" "I cannot protect what I cannot see." His expression hardened. "So you admit weakness." "I build signals, patrol routes, and response plans so weakness does not become disaster." That pleased him more than a boast. Elowen remained unconvinced. "How will you guarantee that your goblins do not raid our villages? How will your villages guarantee that their hunters do not kill goblin children?" She hesitated. The silence answered for her. "Blackroot will punish theft and violence," I said, "but only under laws that recognize goblins as people." "Civilization requires trust," Elowen replied. "Trust cannot be demanded only from the side expected to die first." Rudrak gave an approving growl. Then he looked between Aelthira and me. "If the Elf Queen has not claimed you, several daughters of the Redgrass clans would consider a political union." "She has been claimed," Aelthira said. The room fell silent. I turned toward her. "By Blackroot," she added smoothly. "As its leader." Mara made another note. "Blackroot appears unusually possessive of its officials." I leaned closer to Aelthira. "Strategic diplomacy. A strategically necessary correction of a marriage proposal." "An aggressive marriage proposal." I smiled. She refused to look at me. The doors opened. Cassian Vaylor entered with 2 guards. Dressed more like an administrator than a frontier warlord, that made him more dangerous. "My apologies," he said. "A disturbance on the Western Road delayed me." His eyes settled on me. "So, this is the goblin who brought order to Blackroot." He spoke as though I had trained animals. Vaylor presented his charges calmly. "Illegal occupation, missing traders, stolen weapons, unlawful patrols, harbouring fugitives." Then he looked at Tavi. She became rigid. "This woman escaped lawful custody after stealing official records," he said. "Return her, and I may withdraw the charge of sheltering a fugitive." The wound from her iron collar remained visible. Viola ignored it. You would risk your settlement for one escaped clerk? He asked. If I trade one person to save Blackroot, then Blackroot was never worth saving. Aelthira looked at me with unmistakable pride. Valor only smiled, as expected. Another elf entered behind him, silver hair. White robes, a polished expression without warmth. He bowed. Your former majesty. Aelthira's face hardened. Lethran. Silverroot remains willing to show mercy, he said. Reject this alliance and return with me. Some measure of your former status may be restored. What happens to Blackroot? The territory will be cleansed according to law. Aelthira did not hesitate. Then there is nothing in Silverroot to which I wish to return. His gaze shifted toward me. Your judgment appears compromised. My judgment has never been clearer. Attachment often feels like clarity. Aelthira stepped closer to my side. Then, perhaps your court should have inspired more of it. The council paused for a formal meal before the final arguments. Did not relax. Tavi leaned toward me. One of Valor's servants worked inside the labour camp. I followed her gaze. The servant carried a tray through the side door leading to the kitchens. At the same time, I noticed Grusk's travel bag. Beneath a different bench from where he had left. Someone had moved it. I started toward the bag. Rudrak raised his ceremonial cup. Faint silver residue clung to the rim. Window opened before my eyes. Widow's mercy. Detected. Lethal dose confirmed. Rudrak brought the cup toward his mouth. I lunged across the table and struck it from his hand. The cup shattered across the council floor. Every beastkin weapon in the hall turned toward me. Chapter 5. The body Valor needed. Every beastkin weapon in the hall pointed at me. Grusk drew his blade. Do not, I ordered. Rudrak remained seated, staring at the shattered cup. You struck a ceremonial drink from my hand. It was poisoned. Valor tilted his head. And how did a goblin recognize invisible poison from across the table? I could not tell him a window had appeared before my eyes. Aelthira stepped between me and Rudrak's guards. She passed 2 fingers through the spilled liquid. Silver mana spread across the floor. The residue darkened against the stone. Widow's mercy, she said. Enough to kill him before the next bell. She looked at Rudrak. Kira saved your life. Rudrak raised one hand. His guards lowered their weapons. Valor remained calm, or she knew what had been placed in the cup. Cry came from the far end of the hall. Man collapsed beside the serving tables. Eloan reached him first. She checked his breathing, then pressed 2 fingers against his neck. He is dead. The fortress steward hurried forward. That is Registrar. Halvan. Halvan maintained the council's protected records. Vylor had his body. The steward ordered the hall. Sealed. Ancient wards flared across the doors. No one leaves until the registrar's death is investigated. Council. Guards searched the room. One opened. Grusk's travel bag. Inside lay dried goblin nightshade. And an empty glass vial. Grusk plunged. I caught his arm. That is not mine. He snarled. I know. Vylor looked almost disappointed. For how simple it appeared. Nightshade in a goblin's possession. A goblin leader who recognized the poison. Perhaps this mystery is not difficult. Eloan looked toward Halvan's body. Why would Blackroot murder the registrar? Valor shrugged. Must monsters always have reasons? Eloan's expression changed. I crouched beside Rudrak's broken cup. Who prepared the table? Mara demanded the kitchen records. Rudrak placed beastkin guards beside every exit. Mara checked deliveries while Eloan examined Halvan. Aelthira traced the mana residue, and I reconstructed movement through the room. Rudrak's cup had been poisoned before the meal. Halvan had received a faster dose in the sweetener beside his plate. The nightshade in Grusk's bag was raw. Widow's mercy was not. Aelthira held the leaves beneath the light. These could imitate the smell and colour, but not the poison itself. What else is required? Mara asked. A stabilising mineral and a refined alchemical binder, Aelthira said. Neither is commonly available outside Valadrin apothecaries. Mara checked Blackroot's inventories. They possess neither. Valor turned to me. You still have not explained how you recognised it. I possess an analytical ability. What does it analyse? Damaged materials. Dangerous substances. Anything that can be dismantled or recovered. Lethran gave a faint smile. No. Recognised goblin evolution grants such perception. Aelthira looked at him. Your records describe only the goblins your people allowed to survive long enough to study. His expression tightened. Is her ability even goblin? I met his eyes. Whatever it is, Rudrak is alive because of it. Rudrak folded his arms. I find that more useful than silver roots. Records. Tavi moved closer to Halvan's body. Her face changed. I know him. Vylor watched her carefully. He processed labour contracts, Tavi said. False ones. He helped transfer captives between Vylor's camps. Valor sighed. Another accusation from a thief. He was copying the records, Tavi continued. He intended to sell them. Mara spread Tavi's torn pages beside the official toll ledgers. Stored at the fortress, some entries match. The same weights appeared beneath. Different cargo descriptions. Timber, iron, tools, livestock. These are not cargo weights, I said. Mara followed the pattern. Her expression hardened. Tavi pointed to one code. Adults. Then another. Children. Mara closed the ledger. These records justify a formal investigation, Valor. Smiled without warmth. On the word of escaped property? Tavi flinched. Eloan looked directly at him. She stands before this council as a protected witness. For now, Valor said. Movement flashed behind Tavi. The servant she had recognised emerged. From a narrow service passage with a blade in his hand. I moved. First, I caught his wrist and turned the strike away from her. The blade cut across my forearm. I drove him into the table. Grusk pinned him down. A brass token hung beneath the servant's sleeve. Mara pulled it free. Western Road household issue, she said. Assigned to Valor's staff. Valor barely looked at it. Stolen. The servant bit down. His body convulsed. Grey spread across his lips. By the time Eloan reached him, he was dead. The same method as the scout outside Blackroot. The cut on my arm burned. I ignored it. We have enough to hold Valor. My fingers went numb. A window opened. Widow's mercy detected. Dose sublethal. Spread rising. Respiratory function at risk. The floor shifted beneath me. Aelthira caught me before I fell. Kira. It is a small dose. You cannot feel your hand. I have worked through worse. That is not the reassurance you believe it. Is. Her calm broke. She pulled me against her and pressed a glowing hand over the wound. Eloan, the priestess, was already opening her medicine case. She crushed moonleaf and ashroot into water, then forced me to swallow it. The tightness in my chest eased only slightly. The antidote will slow it, Eloan said. It will not remove it. Aelthira kept silver mana flowing beneath my skin. Her face was close to mine. For the first time since I had met her, she looked afraid. I'm still here, I said. Her fingers tightened around mine. Remain so, Mara. Raise the dead assassin's household. Token. This council will detain Warden Valor until the records and the attack are investigated. The fortress steward nodded. Valor's polite expression disappeared. You believe this place still has authority? The first explosion shook the hall stone. Dust fell from the ceiling. A second blast struck beneath the western wall. Lethran stood beside one of the ancient ward pillars. Its silver markings had gone dark. Aelthira stared at him. You opened the anchors from within. Lethran gave no answer. The ancient wards failed one after another. The sealed doors burst inward. Outside, war horns echoed across the fortress. Valor's army had already been waiting beyond the ward boundary. Eloan tried to stop me from standing. I need to see. With Aelthira holding me upright, I reached the upper wall. Soldiers surrounded the council grounds, but the largest formation was already moving away from the fortress. East, along the forest road, toward Blackroot. Valor had never needed the council to believe his lie forever. He only needed us trapped long enough for Blackroot to burn. Chapter 6. Where She Chooses to Stand. Vylor's main force was already moving, east toward Blackroot. I pushed away from the wall. Ground tilted beneath me. Aelthira caught my arm. You can barely stand. Eloan's antidote stopped the poison. It slowed the poison. That will have to be enough. Below us, Vylor's soldiers pressed toward the broken gates, while the larger column disappeared along the forest road. He had designed the choice carefully. If I left, the fortress would fall and the evidence would burn. If I stayed, Blackroot would face his army. Without me, Grusk reached the wall and followed my gaze. You told us the plan must work without you. I did not expect to test it this soon. Plans do not care what you expected. For once, the old goblin was not telling me to run. He was telling me to trust Blackroot. The warning post would carry the signal ahead of Valor's troops, black for attack, white for evacuation. The scouts, BB's signal board, and Pika's assignment would decide whether the children escaped in time. Too many lives now depended on people other than me. I forced myself away from the wall. Then we make sure there is still a council when they survive. The defenders were already arguing. Humans wanted to retreat. Rudrak's beastkin wanted to charge. Mara's dwarves guarded the ward machinery. Together, they would get us killed. I climbed onto the broken courtyard stair. Listen. Few did. Rudrak roared. That helped. Valor expects separate factions protecting separate interests, I said. Stop giving him what he expects. Rudrak folded his arms. And why should we follow a poisoned goblin? Because he prepared to fight 4 frightened groups. I looked across the courtyard. He did not prepare to fight one organised force. The arguing stopped. Rudrak's warriors would draw the first ranks into the western passage. Mara's people would restore 2 anchors and seal the corridor behind. Them alone would control the healers. Grusk's fighters would use the service passages. Aelthira and I would control the wards. Timing and reserves, Aelthira turned toward me. You will command from the inner hall. No, you are still poisoned, and you will leave with Tavi if the western wall falls. Her expression hardened. No, Blackroot needs you alive. You keep asking me to stand beside you, then place me behind you whenever the cost becomes real. This is not the time. It is exactly the time. The gate shook. Beneath another strike, Aelthira stepped closer. You do not protect me by deciding what I am permitted to risk. I do not know another way. The admission escaped before I could stop it. Her anger softened. She took my hand and placed it against the hilt of her sword. Then learn one. The gate shook. Again, we hold the command point. Together, she said. I nodded. Together, the western gate broke. Rudrak's warriors met the first charge, then withdrew exactly as ordered. Valor's soldiers mistook discipline for collapse and rushed into the narrow passage. Mara activated the repaired anchor. Stone light sealed the corridor. Behind the first ranks, Aelthira drove both hands toward the floor. Roots tore through the cracked stone, dividing the trapped soldiers. Grusk's fighters emerged from the service passages and struck their exposed. Blank Eloin's healers pulled away the wounded before panic could spread. I rotated. The lines before exhaustion broke them. Goblin scouts guided dwarven fighters through passages too narrow for Valor's armoured troops. His army had expected 4 enemies. We gave him one. The outer courtyard was nearly secure when Valor entered. Through the broken gate, black rune armour covered his body. Dwarven plates protected his chest. Elven mana channels glowed along his arms. Human binding runes held the stolen pieces together. His power had been built from everything he exploited. You would follow this creature, he called. His surviving soldiers spread behind him. She is not even what she claims to be. Lethrin stepped from beside a damaged pillar. Silver. Light passed over his eyes. Aelthira had told me soul sight was rare among elves. Rare did not mean unique. Lethrin studied me and smiled. Her soul is foreign. The courtyard went still. Valor pointed toward me. A human spirit inside a goblin shell. An invader wearing the body of a monster. Aelthira stepped beside me. Her soul came from another world. I looked at her. She did not look away. Her body is goblin, she continued. Her memories are human. Her choices belong only to her. Valor laughed. She belongs nowhere. Aelthira drew her sword. She belongs where she chooses to stand. She is unnatural. No. Her voice carried across the courtyard. She is honest enough to contain more than one truth. Then she looked directly at Valor. Her soul is not the danger here. Yours is. Rudrak stepped forward. Kira saved my life. Mara joined him. She exposed records your own officials filed. Eloin stood beside Tavi. And whatever world shaped her soul, her actions in this one are her own. Valor charged. His armour drove him forward with enough force to crack the stone beneath his feet. I avoided the first strike by inches. My system activated, rune lattice unstable, pressure core. Overloaded, elven mana channel exposed. Beneath right shoulder. I could see the weaknesses. I could not exploit them alone. Mara, weak point, lower left plate, Aelthira, shoulder. Silver mana struck Valor's right arm. The channel flickered. Rudrak. Chest. His spear split the weakened plate. Metal split. I moved through the opening. Battlefield salvage activated. Pressure. Core exposed. I tore it free. Valor's armour locked around him. He fell to one knee. His hand reached for a fire rune at his waist. Mara shouted a warning, Aelthira. Redirected the nearest ward channel. Flames erupted from the rune, raced along the repaired lattice, and burst harmlessly into the empty western yard. The ledges remained untouched. For the first time, Vylor looked afraid. Placed my blade against his throat. Take him alive. Rudrak's guards dragged him away. The remaining soldiers surrendered. A black and white signal rose beyond the eastern trees. Blackroot standing, evacuation complete. My legs almost gave way from relief. Near sunset, a wounded goblin scout reached the fortress. His clothes were torn and smoke darkened his face. Blackroot? I asked, still standing. The words loosened something inside my chest. Bibi had repaired the signal board before the army arrived. Nessa had sounded the evacuation and moved the sick and youngest children into the hidden shelter. She had ordered the decoy stores abandoned, collapsed the marked trenches, and kept the scouts moving through the trees. The soldiers found decoy stores and empty paths. While goblin scouts struck from the trees, Pika had guided the children to safety. Then, Bibi found 3 missing near the lower route. Pika went back. He found them, the scout said. He brought all 3 to the shelter. I already knew there was more. Where is he? The scout lowered his eyes. Valor's retreating soldiers caught him near the old slave road. My voice became very quiet. They took him? He nodded. Aelthira reached for my hand. This time, she did not tell me to stay behind. We go together, she said. Pika had followed every lesson. I taught him. He had protected the smaller children. He had completed his mission, and now the people who sold children as cargo had taken my boy. Chapter 7. I was home. We left before sunset, Eloan objected. The antidote is still working. If your breathing worsens, you stop. I will. She looked at Aelthira. She will not. I know, Aelthira said. That was how I ended up riding, in front of her on the same horse, with one of her arms secured around my waist. I can ride alone. You nearly fell from a staircase. That was earlier. The poison has not become less poisonous out of respect for your pride. Grusk led us along the old slave road with the wounded scout. Rudrak followed with 4 mounted warriors. Mara remained at the fortress to secure Vylor, the ledgers and the surviving witnesses. The men who had taken Pika were retreating toward one of Valor's abandoned transport stations. A goblin child could be sold. A witness could be silenced. Either reason was enough. My hands tightened around the reins. Aelthira felt it. You taught him to survive until help arrived. Then we arrive. A black and white signal cord waited beneath a split tree. Grusk examined it. The boy leaves a loud trail. Only for people trained to see it. Farther ahead, we found broken twigs and shallow heel marks beneath a wagon. Pika was frightened. He was also thinking. We found the wagons near an abandoned transport station before nightfall. 5 soldiers guarded the wagons. One held Pika against his chest with a blade near his throat. Pika's wrists were tied, but the rope around one hand had loosened. The soldier saw us and pulled him closer. Stay back. I dismounted slowly. My legs felt distant, but they held. Rudrak's warriors disappeared into the trees. Grusk moved toward the wagon animals. Aelthira remained beside me. The soldier pressed the blade closer. Pika looked at me. I completed my mission. My throat tightened. I know. Aelthira moved one hand. Roots broke through the road and locked around the soldier's wrist. Pika dropped immediately. I crossed the distance before the man could recover. One strike broke his grip. The second put him down. Rudrak's warriors struck from behind while Grusk cut the wagon traces. The fight ended in moments. The fear inside me took longer to release. I knelt beside Pika and cut the rope from his wrists. A bruise darkened one cheek. A shallow cut crossed his shoulder. Nothing worse. He tried to sit straighter. Are you angry? I pulled him into my arms. terrified. For a second he froze, then his arms closed around me. I knew you would come, I know. Behind us, Aelthira opened the transport wagons. 6 prisoners were inside, 4 adults, 2 children. Tavi's ledgers had not contained every name. They had not contained every road either. On the journey back, Pika rode with Grusk and pretended he was not exhausted. Then he looked toward Aelthira and me. Her arm was still around my waist. "Did you really say Kira was claimed?" Aelthira answered without hesitation. "Yes. By Blackroot." That was the official explanation. Pika considered this. "So who actually claimed her? I nearly slipped in the saddle. Go to sleep. I am riding." "Then be quiet while doing it." Grusk laughed for the next mile. 3 days later, the delegates gathered in Blackroot for an emergency ruling. It was not Valor's full trial. This hearing decided whether Blackroot remained a monster nest under the law or became a protected settlement. The delegates came to us. They passed rebuilt homes, warning posts, and the clean well. Goblins repaired walls beside dwarves. Beastkin marked a trade route while Eloan's people unloaded medicine. Blackroot no longer needed to be imagined as a settlement. It stood around them. Mara presented Tavi's ledgers, the matching toll records, the assassin's household token, the poison, and the testimony of the rescued prisoners. Vaelor stood in chains. Lethran remained under guard for disabling the wards. Vaelor looked across Blackroot with contempt. "This place will fail. Fear is the only thing that keeps the frontier in order." "Then you were never keeping order," I said. I looked toward Tavi and the rescued prisoners. "You were keeping everyone weak." Vaelor had no answer worth hearing. The Blackroot Accord was placed on a wooden table beside the well. It granted 1 year of provisional recognition. Recognised borders. The right to trade and maintain our own watch. Protection from legal extermination. Legal personhood for every resident accepted under Blackroot's authority. It was not sovereignty. No goblin settlement in the Thorn Marches had ever received even this much. Blackroot required 2 recognised signatures. Mara signed for the Stonevein Compact. Rudrak signed for the Redgrass clans. Eloan added her name as witness for the western frontier villages. Then Aelthira signed beneath them. Her name carried no legal weight. I looked at her. "Your signature does not count. Law is not the only way a promise becomes real." The delegates asked Blackroot to name its recognised representative. The goblins gathered around the well. Grusk spoke first. "Kira taught us to build plans that survive without her." Nessa crossed her arms. "She also stayed when leaving would have been easier." Pika raised his hand. "She is terrifying." Bibi nodded solemnly. No one objected. I became warden of Blackroot. Aelthira became keeper of accords and voice of Blackroot. Different duties, equal authority. That evening, Blackroot celebrated. Someone found music and alcohol strong enough to strip paint. Pika retold his capture until he had defeated 12 soldiers. Bibi corrected every version. After the fires burned low, I found Aelthira beside the well. For once, no task waited. "You could still return to Silverroot one day," I said. "If its court changes." She looked at me. "You still speak as though staying beside you is something I failed to escape." "That is not what I meant. It is what you fear." I looked toward the sleeping settlement. "You chose Blackroot." "Yes. Politically. Yes." I forced myself to meet her eyes. "I do not know what you choose personally." Aelthira stepped closer. "You." My breath caught. "As your warden?" "No." She kissed me. I had survived ambushes, poison, reincarnation, and several meetings with politicians. None of them had prepared me for Aelthira kissing me. Her hand moved to the back of my neck. I kissed her back. When we separated, she remained close enough that her breath touched my lips. "This time," she said, "you may consider yourself claimed." "That still sounds aggressive. You survived." I laughed. Then I kissed her again. The following morning I woke with Aelthira's arm around my waist and part of our clothing beside the bed. For once I did not wake prepared to leave. Someone knocked loudly. "Are you both awake?" Pika called. Bibi answered from outside. They are pretending not to be. Aelthira hid her face against my shoulder. Being warden of Blackroot clearly came with too few privileges. Later, Bibi dragged us toward the well. She had spent several days rebuilding the lifting mechanism from salvaged gears, carved wood, and a cracked mana stone. That morning, she had finally fitted the last piece. The wheel turned. Clean water rose through the channel. The younger goblins cheered. Mana gathered around Bibi. A window opened before my eyes. Evolution condition fulfilled. Bibi has evolved. New path. Tinker Goblin. Bibi stared at her hands. The gears make sense now. I rested a hand on her head, then build something better. Around us, Blackroot kept moving. Humans unloaded medicine. Dwarves inspected the northern tunnel. Beastkin marked the trade road. Goblins repaired homes without keeping escape bags beside their doors. Pika explained his rescue to 3 younger children, while Bibi corrected him from the well. Aelthira joined me and slipped her hand into mine. In my first life, I had protected countries that already existed. In this one, I had helped build a home for people the world had decided should not exist at all. For the first time in either of my lives, I was no longer searching for somewhere to survive. I was home.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, or become a member to support Keiko Novel, then choose your next world.